God will make a way. You know, sometimes in pursuing the plan that God has for our lives, we may find ourselves in situations where we find ourselves backed into corners, backed into sticky situations where we do not know how to get out of those situations. We need to remember that in pursuing God's plan and purpose for our life, He is with us and He will make a way for us. We need to know what some of the reasons how we find ourselves in these situations. How did we get to this place? In pursuing God's plan for our lives, remember that you are seeking after that which is not of you. You are going after that which is from Him. You are going after His plan, His purpose for your life. You are going against the grain. The earth that we're in, it's going in accordance to the world system. You are now saying, I want to change things. I want to change how I've been living and go according to God's system and live life in this world God's way. From that reason, you can find yourself backed into corners in some of the things that we do. You need to always trust Him and seek after Him to help you to get out of those situations. God will make a way. What is it that will cause us to get into some of these situations where we find ourselves backed into these corners? That can be for a number of reasons. Remember that for a very long time, you have been living life in this world your own way. You've been doing things based on how you felt. You've been doing things based on how you've wanted to do things, how you've wanted to see things. And all of these actions, everything has a cause and effect. Everything leads to something. So there's a number of reasons why you can find yourselves backed into a situation. And it's not to say that if you suddenly find yourself backed in a sticky situation, that it's a bad thing, that you did a bad thing. No. You can be backed up into a corner for the right reasons. There are a number of reasons for this, but I just want to explore just a few of them today. One of the reasons that can cause you to be backed into a corner, backed into a sticky situation, is that it's out of disobedience. Maybe it was out of your actions. God spoke to you. He told you what He wanted you to do, and you didn't do it, or you did it your own way. And now it's a result of those consequences of those actions. We see this with Jonah. Jonah found himself backed in a situation like this because of his actions, the consequences of his actions. God told him, go and speak to this people, send this message out to this group of people, and he didn't do that. There was consequences for that. Another reason why you can find yourself backed into a corner, backed into a sticky situation, is course correction. We have been journeying on this earth for a very long time, and we have developed certain habits, certain ways. We think in certain ways, and we do all of this in autopilot mode. We don't even think that we're doing it. It's our subconscious is just so used to doing it a certain way that we don't even think about it anymore. It's just like you don't even push a button to say go. It just happens. So that can get you, and it can lead you into a certain way of doing things. So now in correcting that, you can find yourself in a sticky situation out of habit, I'm used to doing things this way. Lord, I know your way is different, but I still don't know quite how to do it your way. I don't know quite how to lift this. I don't know how to handle this situation the way that you would have me do it. So out of haste, I want to get this task quickly off my table. So you do it this way quickly just to get it done. And that can lead you into sticky situations. Sometimes it's course correction in the sense that God will allow it to happen. It's not to say that He's causing it, but He will allow it to happen. Almost like if I'm now finding myself backed up here, my only way out is, Lord, how do I do this? How do I proceed? And we can find ourselves in a place where we become, on account of knowing how asking these questions of him, Lord, how do I proceed? We can find ourselves becoming a little bit more obedient and more diligent in hearing from him. We can be a little bit more obedient in seeking him. We can be a little bit more diligent in asking the questions of, Lord, what do I do? I may have heard about somebody going through a similar situation. It's not to say that that person's situation is the same as mine, or that you even want for that to be the same or different outcomes. But how do you want me to navigate here today? Another reason that you can find yourself backed up in a situation, in a corner, is on account of things that are out of your control. They are completely outside of your control. You had nothing to do with it. We see this with Job. Job found himself in a sticky situation. He found himself backed up in a corner, not because he did anything, but on account of who he was. Meetings were held and discussed about him that he was not invited to. He didn't even know those meetings were happening, but yet those meetings were concerning him. And those meetings backed him up into a corner. In Job's case, he did absolutely nothing. He did nothing wrong. He had a strong relationship with God. That's it. That is what got him into that situation. He had a strong relationship with God. And that relationship was being tested. Did he ask for that relation to be tested? No, he did not. Did he see the outcome of that situation and how it was going to come out? No, he did not. But it was still a case of this relationship was being tested. And during that time, his relationship was being strengthened. Him and his relationship, he came out much stronger than he was before he went into that situation. He was strengthened through the test. People had opinions for why he was going through what he was going through. He had his own opinions for why he was going through what he was going through. But it was about, it had nothing to do with him. But look at how he came out, after he'd been through and had all these conversations with all these different people about, why do you think I'm going through this? What's going on? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Eventually he goes to God and he asks God about it. And God's response, we see that God's response in Job chapter 38, where he's now asking him and responding to him. Then the Lord answered Job out of the storm. And he said, who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me. So God was saying, look, why are you questioning me here? Do you know how I function? Do you know how I do things? I do things. In other words, God was reinforcing and reiterating that he is the one in control. He has all control. He holds all control. He holds our lives and he holds the whole earth by the breath, by the word of his mouth. God is in control. Nothing is above him. Nothing supersedes him. Nothing takes him by surprise. God has a way, and he will make a way for you that might not make sense to you or to anyone else. But he can do it, and he will do it. So all you got to do is just trust in him. Lean on him. Don't lean on your understanding. He has a way. He is sovereign. God is above all. God has to teach us his ways. We are so accustomed to the world's ways that when God's ways come in and come on the scene, that we might not always know how to handle them. But his way is above the world's way. His way, his word is not returning to him void. So that means his ways are not going back to him void without accomplishing that which he planned for them to do and planned for his ways. He will, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That will happen. He has to work in each and every single one of us to strengthen us. He has to check our motives. Some of us come into these things, coming after God. We come after his plan. We seek after his plan, but yet our motives are wrong. And we don't always realize that our motives are wrong. You know, if you were to ask anyone, your goal, your plan for seeking after God, His will and His purpose for your life, do you have the right motives in doing that? Everybody will say yes. And nobody is saying that out of being funny or like, what do you mean? Everybody will say yes. But God knows us. He knows us in ways that we do not know ourselves. He, you know, where he will expose our true motives to us, our true motives for seeking after Him. Are we seeking after Him because of who He is? Or are we seeking after Him because of what He can do for us? Or are we seeking after Him for how He can bless us? What is your true motive in saying, I'm seeking after God's plan? And the plan, it's not that when we walking in this and we're starting to see that maybe my motives were wrong, or maybe my motives were not quite how they should have been. It's not to say that the plan stops, but it's for God to come in and help you to fix those things that are as on account of the wrong motives. We do not always know our motives. We always coming and saying that we are serving God from a place of having a right motive. But He knows our true hearts. He knows our true being. He knows us. And Him working that out, Him bringing that out, will start to expose that to us. Not so much exposing the things on the surface that we know about, but He goes to the root so that He can not only help to get you and build you here today, but He can strengthen you further along the way so that the things and the wiles and the things that happen in the world, they don't shake you anymore. You won't even flinch. But in order to get you there, in order to get you through that, He has to expose these things in us. And we don't like that. We don't like our true nature being exposed to us. Remember, when God does that, it's not to say He didn't know. It's to sometimes tell us, show it to us. This is who you really are. Not only who you really are, but I just want you to see this and know this so that we can fix it and change it, so that you no longer have to be like this. You can fix it. You can be different. You can become better through that. I have shared a little bit more on this in one of my older messages, where it's called "What's Your Foundation?" where God comes in and He has to, we want to build on a sure foundation, but sometimes He has to really dig deep in us to fix our foundations, not just so that, the more stable, the more solid the foundation of a building is, the higher you can build, the stronger you can build. So if you don't mind, that message it's one of my earlier messages. It's called "What's Your Foundation?" It elaborates further in that. So that process will can get you into a situation where you find yourself backed up in a corner, so that in the process of Him getting you out, He will deal with those things. He will deal with those foundational roots in you that can cause you to trip up later on. He will deal with it there first. But when He starts to do that, too many people start to run away because it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, but it's worth it. It is worth it in the end, in that He will bring out the best in you. Through that, He will strengthen you so that thing, He knows the things that can potentially trip us up down the line. He doesn't want that to happen. So let's deal with it now and build on a sure foundation. So God will make a way for you. His ways are not our ways. His ways are higher. Trust Him. Serve Him. Lean on Him. Don't lean on your own understanding. Seek after Him. Seek after the plan that He has for you. God will make a way for you. Amen.